Good morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Garber here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health. And this year, Wednesday morning, rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, we're looking at the topic: Is the state of your health a result of unbelief? Is the state of your health a result of unbelief? So, welcome. Hopefully, the blessed night rest and you're ready to take on the challenges of this day. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of life, for the blessings of seeing another day. I thank you, dear Lord, for the wisdom that you provide and you give to us from day to day. We pray, dear Lord, a blessing upon these words as I present them and as each listen. May you grant us, dear Lord, your richest blessings for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at the topic: Is the state of your health a result of unbelief? So is the state of your health a result of unbelief? This is very important because when you look at often the availability of solutions for the problems that we face, or solutions that are not known to us but they can be found out, then the question becomes: is the state of our health a result of unbelief? Are there things that you're supposed to be doing for your health that you're not doing because you're not exercising either the belief that you already have? You might believe certain things are beneficial, but you're not partaking of them, or you just don't believe. You hear it and you be like, you dismiss it. And based upon that dismissal, then your practice becomes hurtful to yourself. So is the state of your health a result of unbelief? Now in Matthew chapter 9, verse 28 through 30, Matthew chapter 9, verse 28 through 30, it says, "And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus said unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touch ye their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. And their eyes were open, and Jesus straightly charged them, saying, Seeing that no man know it." So here Christ is healing these blind individuals. And as he healed them, notice at the end there he says, straightway charge them, saying, See that no man know it. So imagine you're blessing people and you're healing people, and you're trying to tell the person who's being healed to tell nobody, because there's some unbelievers that are leading the church, and they would attack you. They would attack him primarily, I should say. They would attack the blind also, because there's a very extensive story in the New Testament in Matthew there that outlines that the blind man that was healed, they went after him. They threatened to kick him out of the church and all that, because his healing would testify to Christ's righteousness. And because they didn't want that, they basically started threatening to kick him out. So this is the type of environment that is around. And so even when we talk about, is the state of your health a result of unbelief, there's things that we believe, and I do believe in, that is healing. The trees and the leaves, the barks, the roots, all that type of stuff, the diet, the lifestyle. More and more people are coming around to that mindset. But even a few years ago, if you preach certain things or teach certain things, the FDA would want to come after you, saying that you're a quack. And today this mindset is still there. I don't know how much in the younger generation, but it's definitely there in the older generation. Anything that is so natural or stuff like that would be attacked. And there were some reasons for it, because there were people who were scammers and snake oil salesmen, that they were selling cures and stuff like that that would not cure you. But still, you look at what's going on, and you look at how often one has to be careful for those reasons, because there's healing in the plants, there's healing in natural modalities, there's healing in the 8 natural laws. But many people who are believers now, not people who are, secular, and you might share something with them and they don't fully understand, and they go mess themselves up, and then the family want to sue or something. But we're talking about people who are supposed to believe in the Bible, believe in the biblical health message. And yet, even though this might be the case, their health is failing just the same way for reasons that it should not. Uh, Simple dietary change, simple herbal remedies that could give them a solution to their problem, but they don't practice it. And so the health is not what it's supposed to be. And then you can look at it and say, this is something to do with unbelief. Because we notice here in verse 29 again, it says, He touched their eyes and saying, According to your faith, be it unto you. So according to your faith, be it unto you. So how you believe. How you believe. Because part of belief is that you have to believe that a thing can heal your body. So if I tell you that this thing is healing, and you say, Lord, so I should take like 4 capsules. I'm like, well, not for your problem. You probably need like 10 capsules. You probably can't take it in capsules. Probably you have to take this herb straight in water. And when you're taking the herb, what the herb's going to tell you by the taste is that it's a poison. So even that you have to exercise belief. I'm not talking about just a little sprinkling. I'm talking about chugging down something that tastes like it's just so awful, so terrible that it's gonna kill you. And yet it's probably a simpler herb like golden seal, or it's podark in a bark. Well, podark in a bark don't taste bad, but there's certain herbs that are just horrible in taste, and black walnut and all these type of things. And if you take them in water, it's just horrible. And the taste would tell you that this is dangerous. Something that is bad for you, but it tastes good would be like sugar. The taste tell you that this is great for you. But if you drink, say, the volume of 8 ounces of powdered sugar on a daily basis, you will be clogged up within a few days. You will start coming down with a cold and all that. And most naturally, it depends on how strong your immune system is. So you will start getting clogged up, but it tastes great. It tells you that you should drink more. It must be good for you. While if you take something that tastes very terrible, that is good for your body, a lot of times it tastes horrible. And in that horror taste, it will tell you, you have to have some faith to believe that this thing is going to heal, because there's nothing in the taste that indicates to your brain, to a sensible, reasonable person, that this thing is healing. And that's the irony about life and about Christ. Christ is the opposite thinking. Everything that Christ does, it works different. To heal the soul, one needs bitter, one needs a purge, one needs something that's a bitter cup. One needs to deny oneself, pick up one cross. It is the opposite to end up, doing knee replacement surgery, doing hip replacement surgery. One need to take things that are taste great. One needs to eat a lot of sugar, a lot of fat, kill a lot of animals and eat their carcasses. And the more you do that and it tastes phenomenal, is the more you're killing your body. It is just ironically, but if you do a biblical health message and you eat a Daniel's diet and you do all that stuff, you find your brain work better, your body works better, everything works better. It is the opposite. You want to live a high life, you take drugs, you die. You want to live the good life that the Bible tells you. You eat healthy, you get high on life, and you live. It's the opposite. And this is why the devil is real, and the Bible talks about deception, because you see the devil gives it to you in the sweet way and kills you. The Lord tell you, try this bitter thing over here. And then you say, oh, this is life. Because in that bitter things, there's phenolic acids, there's all these different terpenes and these different chemicals that could be taste harsh, they could taste bitter, but in them, they're a tree of life. It is ironic how things work. And so notice here, he touched their eyes and saying, according to your faith be it unto you. So it's how your faith, because remember, there was places Christ went and he did no healing. The people didn't receive him because they didn't believe. They rejected him, and so he couldn't do anything. And their eyes opened and charged them straightway, don't tell anybody, because the evildoers would prefer you stay blind as long as they discredit me. You think about that. They'll prefer you stay blind as long as they discredit you. And it's the same thing when it comes on to chemical and natural, the chemical pharmaceutical world and the natural world. They want you to just do this over here. That's where the money's at. But if you do this natural thing over here, you heal, that's a problem. And if more people believe that, then there's less money for them. So there's a financial incentive. So your success naturally is hurts them. My success naturally hurts them. So that's where you can see an atmosphere like that, where there's witch hunts for people who are doing things different from the system. They would want to hunt you, and they would want to make sure they discredit you and put you down, because if you have any type of success, then end up what happened is that your success become their undoing, and they have a financial responsibility to make sure you fail. And so that's where now they'll send spies, they'll do all these type of things. And you can see the same thing work with Christ. It's his anything to make him look bad was good for the Pharisees. If he failed, it was be good. You think about that. If Christ failed, it would be bad for all of us. But they had a very well vested interest in making him fail. And this is why you have to even pray for people who preach the gospel, because when they fail, it's just real bad. So before I go on to the rest of my thought there about faith and be it unto your faith, so to speak, I'm gonna be reading this quick little article here because remember we're talking about self-inflicted wounds, and basically this idea here being unto your faith is part of the self-inflicted wound. But I want to talk about one of the issues that are happening here, because remember now we're facing a lot of epidemics, and one of the epidemics we're facing right now is the drug epidemic. And when we talk about self-inflicted wound, the drug epidemic is just one of the major problems. And so normally, you if you have a problem, you face the problem. You might have other brush fires, but if you have a major fire, as a good example, because of what's going on today and tomorrow in California, if you have a major fire, you face that major fire. Now, it don't mean that you can't face the brush fires, but your resources would be put more on what is more risk or danger. So if you look at what's going on in the political realm and in the religious realm, and you scan the TV and you go from political channel to religious channels, and you go back to the news, and you ask yourself the question, what are the emergencies the people are facing? And then you say, well, one of the emergency is this problem here with the drug epidemic. And then you come back to the news, and the news will report it. We go to listen to the preachers, and the preacher's not talking about it. And they probably give it an honorable mention, and then they move on to bigger things. Then you come back to the politicians, and the politicians, they're fighting over all kind of stuff. So, but they're not facing some of the major problems. And so this is now why I say this is one of these self-inflicted wounds, is because when you have a wound, it has to be attended to, and it has to be treated as an emergency. Else it's gonna fester and it's gonna create a new problem. And so when you have the government focused on everything else, but it's not focused on the major thing that's creating dead bodies and destroying the people, then you realize there's a problem. But most people don't catch that because they have been told that it's these people that are coming over the border, or they're saying it's the PC mindset that is destroying the country, and so forth and so on. And this is all these bunch of stuff. I probably should have had a list here, so I could just say all the things that they're focused on. But while they're saying these are the problems, the dead bodies are piling up, and they're piling up for other reasons. We have a healthcare problem. As a matter of fact, I'll say this. I was reading an article this morning because I was thinking to use it, but it's a very long article, and I decided not to. But it was talking about in rural America, which is 95% of the landmass in America, but in the rural cities, which represent about 20% of the population, because 80% of Americans live in urban areas. In rural America, they cannot provide EMS type services, ambulance services, because there's not enough people and not enough workers, and most of this is volunteer. So I was reading it and I was thinking, here's an emergency, here's something that's happening for various different reasons. And there's this collapse of these towns that are happening. So you have real problem happening, but a big part of the problem, which is a side note, but is a major note. Just think about it, and then I go to the article. A major reason why they're collapsing is many of these towns who have lost since 2010 about 100, I think it's a 120 or a little bit more hospitals, and then smaller clinics, even more, have closed in these areas. Um, they did not go for Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. They rejected it in those areas, North Dakota, South Dakota, those type of areas. So they rejected that because I guess the Muslim pushed through this thing to kill grandma. So I think it's ironic because I'm reading it. I'm thinking, okay, so you didn't expand Medicaid, you didn't take Obamacare, you didn't do all of that. But guess who primarily is dying is grandma because the young people are leaving the area and there's not enough service, and the people who are calling 911 the most is basically grandparents. They're calling most and they're not getting the service. So, like it or not, as I said, the numbers never lie. The conspiracy or the reason, you can always judge people's motives for what they're doing. But at the end of the day, what is not up for judgment are the numbers. How many people are dying and not getting any services, and what did they do? Why they didn't take certain services and avail themselves of certain opportunities is because of this. And the issue goes deeper. I don't know if I'll deal with it tomorrow, because the issue of even these towns just losing young people and they just getting, it's just not a good place to live. There are deeper problems there. And so when you look at this, these are the type of things that are self-inflicted wounds. You think about the areas that are most anti-Obamacare, or the areas that have some of the highest rates of uninsured people, and most of them were red states, and a lot of those people were poor whites, and yet they were anti this thing that was going to help them because they were told that it was done to put them on a system to kill them. So these are things that like people shooting themselves in the foot because if it's like the attitude is, I say, if I come to a point in my life where I say, if I have to take help from somebody that's say Asian, I have a choice between taking help from them and dying, I prefer to die. That's a messed up type of thinking to get into. You'd rather die than to take help because it's the wrong person giving you the help. I just believe you take the help from whoever is going to give you the help. So notice here this article, quick article, as we continue this thought. Here, this quick article here about fentanyl. So notice it says here that fentanyl kills more people in the East and meth in the West. So the drugs behind deadly overdose vary across the United States. So this is a settling. This is something I've been seeing the news reporting on, that meth is coming back. Methamphetamine, it's on the rise again. Because I believe this thing. I always believe this thing, that when a person is high on drugs, they're gonna go for whatever is cheapest, and whatever is gonna give them a hit for cheaper. And if the hit can be longer for cheaper, they're gonna go for it. And they're not going to discriminate. They normally say, crack is for poor people and cocaine is for rich people. But if a person has, $20 in their pocket and they know they can get a better hit from crack than buying cocaine, and they can get more crack, why would they buy cocaine? It makes no sense. It would just go for something cheaper. That's human beings. You make the dollar, you stretch the dollar. So notice the drug driving overdose deaths vary depends on where you live in the U.S. A government report published Friday found when researchers from the CDC, uh, National Center for Health Statistics, analyzed death certificates from 2017 and searched for names of specific drugs involving overdoses. They found distinct differences on each side of the Mississippi River. Drug overdose in the eastern part of the U.S. were much more likely to involve synthetic opiate fentanyl, while methamphetamine dominated in the West. Nationwide, fentanyl was the most common drugs implicated in 2017, reported in 38.9% of the more than 70,000 drug overdose deaths. that occurred that year. Heroin and cocaine were used in 22.8% and 21.3% of drug overdose deaths, respectively. So heroin hit 22, and then cocaine hit 21%. So there's quite a few people you keep hearing, even superstars and stuff, that they die of like a heart failure. But if you wait a little bit for the autopsy, many times you find it's the cocaine. It overworks the heart. So cocaine is still taking out about 1 in 5 overdose deaths. It's still significant. Methamphetamine was the fourth drug most frequently involved, found in 13.3% of overdose deaths. Many many times drug overdose deaths involve more than one substance. Knowing what's going on in a different part of the country helps inform prevention efforts, says Dr. Holly Hedgegard, the lead author of the report and a medical epidemiologist with the National Center for Health Statistics. Hedgegard gave the example of naloxone, which is used to reverse opioid overdose. Naloxone, sold as Narcan, is particularly effective in areas of the country with higher rates of opiate addiction, such as the Northeast. The medication is so important in reducing opiate-related deaths that emergency departments within the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center have given away more than 1,000 naloxone kits to people considered at high risk for an overdose. Our system just pay for it. We hand them a Narcan nasal spray kit to walk out the door with, said Dr. Mike Lynch, medical director for the Pittsburgh Poison Center at that university in Pittsburgh. He was not involved in the new research, but by standards or by standards or first responders don't have any comparable tool to treat people who have taken too much methamphetamine. What more, these individuals present a particular risk to bystanders and first responder. Lynn says that person is going to be agitated, delirious, potentially hallucinating, or violent. He said for meth overdose, doctors must use a combination of sedatives and antipsychotic to calm the individual. But even then, Lynch said it isn't truly an antidote or a reversal. While in the 2017 data implicate fentanyl, the majority of overdose in the East, and methamphetamine in the West, newer data from the CDC suggests trends may be shifting. That set of data includes drug overdose deaths from 2018 to March of this year. During that time, fatal overdose dropped in the Midwest and East portion of the U.S., where naloxone have been widely implemented. But the more recent data also show overdose deaths in the West are rising overall, a possible sign that deadly fentanyl is migrating across to according to expert. Conversely, Lynch said that over the past 2 years, the Pittsburgh Poison Center has witnessed a growing number of patients addicted to methamphetamine. As both the West adjust to fentanyl and the Midwest and Northeast respond to methamphetamine increase, we can learn from each other, Lynch said. The new study from the NCHS also in identify other drugs commonly seen in overdose deaths nationwide. Those sedatives such as al- alza, which is I should say the Xanax, whatever that is, and then Clonopin and Valium, as well as Benadryl, a number of other powerful narcotics and opiates. Right, so I start there. That's the end of the article. So at the end there, they basically rounded off to the main drugs that are causing deaths. Those are actually causing quite a few deaths, but not, they're below 10%. To make up that 100%. So the primary drivers here is meth, cocaine, and fentanyl. And then behind those, it would be Xanax. As a matter of fact, I remember saying I'm going to redo this one. And then I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. They announced that they're pulling Xanax from the market temporarily. They have a recall on Xanax as of I think Friday or Monday. I can't remember. So the Xanax, the sedative Xanax is having a recall for some, I think, foreign matter in it or something. Uh, then also they have here Clonopin, and then Valium, and then Benadryl, which is an antihistamine that you can use to make drink or syrup. But all those are people, or young people, are dying from all those drugs, basically. So this is something that is ongoing, and I share this with you because this is an important thing to watch, and I put it out there because I think, as I say, my philosophy is always, people just use whatever is cheap or whatever is available. So if you're going after one thing, they'll just switch to something else. And notice they're saying there's a growing trend that are happening where on the west side of the country, they're now getting more fentanyl. And then on the east side of the country, they're getting more meth. So, there's dominance on both sides, but look, it's drugs. People just go get whatever makes them real high. So you can imagine I could imagine even something simple happening. They're looking for somebody and, who's selling drugs, and he just basically slip over to one side of the country. And then they're looking for somebody on that side and slip over the other, and he take whatever drug of choice that he sells, and he go introduce the community to it, and they realize, wow, this is some good stuff. And then we run into some more problems. So this is a constant increase. So this is the type of stuff I'm talking about, that there's an emergency happening. There is something that is happening that is need attention. And yet, because of unbelief, because people don't believe certain things, then they don't make certain moves. As you know, I've covered this here before. Back in the past, if you listen to people, which was something surprising to me when I first came to the country, they would make it sound like people who love drugs and use drugs, they were black people. And you're like, well, everybody have the same brain, and the same brain and the same receptors in the brain. Why would they say that? I used to think that was so wicked and cold. And then years later, just in my thinking, I never enumerated it or said it to anybody. I was just thought, man, that's so wicked. Why would they say that? Everybody has, reproductive organs. Everybody have a mouth. Everybody has brain, and stuff like that. So all sin are just sin common to humanity. But it made it sound like, say, oh no, the drug problem is just in this in the black areas. I'm like, how can the drug problem be just in black areas? People like to be high, and and then now this thing start getting bigger and bigger. You start to see was a self-inflicted wound. This was a lie that caught up with the society, because for years, as you know, they ignored this problem, and they act as if, oh no, only black people get high, and only there's a drug problem only in the black community. It's not in America, until it gets so bad that it has reversed the population of the United States. So now, instead of the population going forward, it's going backward. The death rate has increased, and people are not living as longer, and due to simply drugs. And then you sort of realize it's across the board. No matter where you go, there's problems in all community, all groups, all states, and this is realistic. This is reality. To me, the lies that were told was not reality. They were based upon fictional stuff. Everybody has a mouth, and you eat food, and everybody has to deal with temperance or self-control. Everybody has a reproductive organ and has to deal with self-control. Same way there. Everybody has as I said, receptors for drugs, and one drug might not suit you, but another drug will suit you. So we all have to deal with temperance again there. So why would you make it seem like it's just some people who are dealing with this? So now Problem is so big that the problem is across the board, and then you find out everybody is dealing with this. Rich communities, even my communities, the richest town in my county has a drug problem, and the poorest town has a drug problem. That's just logical, you know. The richest town has a drug problem, probably the largest drug problem in the area, and the poorest town has one of the largest problem of drug in the area. So I tell you, it don't matter if there's money or no money. It's just human beings just will do what human beings do. It had nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with financial. It has nothing to do with class. You know, people are perverts up and down the scale. You know, weirdos up and down the class status, the whatever status is all the same thing. So, you know, but I think some of it is going back now to what I say, is the state of your health a result of unbelief. Some of this is unbelief because it's just how can you believe such a foolishness? You know, that's to me is part of my thinking. How could anybody believe that it's just some people are more prone to certain things? You know, like there's murderers and thieves in every community. It's just unless you don't believe in the Bible or you don't believe in God, you don't believe what the Bible says. It's just sins common to humanity. There's none but God that is righteous. All of sin and fallen short of the glory of God. But for years, I think the church, and I think the church is still trying to do it, especially the church in America, they're trying to act as if there's not the society is not crazy and the church members are not crazy. And by ignoring these things, I think is part of the mental psychosis of trying to fake that the society is somewhere. You know, even when people say like we have a Christian nation, I was talking about that yesterday. I think that's one of the most fascinating things because I'm like, which nation? None. You know, there's nation that aspire to Christian virtues and values, but that you couldn't really say it's a nation. You could say there's Christians in the nation. Those are two different things. There's believers in the nation, but not a Christian nation. Nations are crazy. In Second Kings, we're gonna go back to this chapter I wanted to read yesterday. Second Kings chapter 5. I'm gonna read part of it here. Second Kings chapter 5, starting at verse 1. And is your health, now this is more specifically to my topic, is your health um a result of unbelief? Now, are there things you should be doing that you should either believe or you should be practicing because you already know what's going on with your health? Now, notice we're gonna notice here that the story of the healing of Naaman the leper, is a testimony that it's not that God could not heal the people in Israel. It's not God could not heal the Jewish or the Hebrew people, was that they just didn't believe. And that was the problem. The belief was the problem. It's not God could not bless. You know, Bible said God's hand is not shortened that he should not bless. He cannot forgive. That's not the problem. The problem is our sins, our unbelief, our lack of faith. This is where the problem is. You know, believe. You see, when I read the Bible tell me this, I believe it. Now somebody say, but you see it, that's what you believe. I was like, no, sometimes I don't see it. I just believe it. I know it's going to manifest. It's just a matter of time. I'll see it sooner or later. But it start with belief. Sight will come. And then, you know, you present the evidence. But at first the Bible say, hey, look for this. And I'm like, okay, I'll look for it, Lord. And then I'll find it because I believe. It might be hidden because I wasn't looking. It probably was there in plain sight. I just didn't interpret it. Notice here, 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 1 onward. It says here, now Naaman, captain of the host of the Syrian, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. So this is like the punctuation, and then after the punctuation, it tells you something about him. Everything is going good for him, but he has this one problem. It's not a minor problem, it's a major problem. He's in a bind, so to speak. And the Syrian had gone out by companies and had brought away captives out of the land of Israel, a little maid, and she was on Naaman's, and she waited, on Naaman's wife. So Naaman's wife, she waited on. So this little captive, right? So this is the fascinating thing about life, right? Because at this point here, Israel is losing. This is why you can't lose a heart, right? Israel is losing at this point. They're not winning. And Naaman is the big dog in town, the biggest of the biggest. He would be like a 4-star general. He's basically running. I wouldn't call him the superpower, but I would call him probably in the area regional power. And he's basically in charge of that. So there's nothing that you're gonna say to him per se when if he was not sick that would be of value. If you understand what I'm saying, there's nothing you're gonna say to him. Just think about it. You come to a people who have nuclear radiation tests that they can do to detect cancer. They have the best doctors with double, triple PhD. Never met a doctor with triple PhD, but I'm just saying. I met with double PhD. You have the latest technology in this, and you go to somebody, you say, I'm gonna tell you something. If you have cancer, you need to consider well charcoal, that dark black thing. You need to consider that well and bend it like clay. It's a miracle. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? You need to consider. So they'll look at you, and I've heard people say this. They'll say, you never read a book. You don't know science. You're ignorant. They because it's like, you're stupid. Why are you going to say something like that? I said, you got to consider well some barks and root and leaves. If you have some of the worst diseases in the world, the incurable diseases, they'll be like, what? What are you talking about? We have nuclear science. See, that's I think is part of the thing that what, and this is why I believe it comes back down to belief. You see, you gotta believe because it doesn't make sense. Now I know somebody say, yeah, Lord, but the people using all that nuclear stuff, they drop dead like flies. And I said, yeah, they're dropping dead like flies. And when they drop dead like flies, they're losing everything. Their whole body's falling apart. I saw last week, I think it's this famous basketball player. Obviously, I forget his name, but he's a big guy, and his sister died at 40. And I was thinking, but you see, if you go to somebody who's a multi-millionaire, big money, at the top of this ingenuity, you say to them, man, you need some clay and some burnt wood and some herbs. They'll be like, man, you're crazy. What are you talking about? You see, this is the type of stuff. This is what makes it so fascinating because she's a captive, and whatever she's gonna say, it should be dismissed. But his great need is what was to me one of the major things that pushed him. What choice did he have? You know, I've known people that say, well, the doctors say they run out of options. And that's when they're really ready to try herbal. The only problem sometimes is by that time, the cancer is at stage 4. They could still live, but a lot of time they wait too long, you know, and they just really should be preparing themselves to die. But separately from that, and I think they could still live at times. So I think that the effort is going to be monumental. And a lot of we deal with sickness, a large part of it is in your mind. It's a battle of the mind. Where you have the right solutions, most actually, you could have the wrong solutions, and you battle all you want in your brain, you're still going to die. But battle of the mind. And so there's a belief system because, again, he is the top dog. He's taking this girl as a captive. There's nothing she going to say to him that should really resonate with him because he's the dog. He's the big dog. Notice verse 2. So they got a little animated, verse 2. Verse 3 says, and she said unto her mistress, would God, my Lord, were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. So if he was with the prophet, she said, she believed. You know, this is fascinating. I don't know who taught her. I don't know if she heard Elisha preach and just believe Elijah. I don't know. Probably she was, I don't know how, but she believed. I don't know who her parents was. Doesn't elaborate who she is, how she got to this point in her life where she believed. Because most of Israel didn't believe. You know, keep that in mind. Most of Israel did not believe. This is the other thing about persecution also. When we're in the midst of rebellion, we too can get hit by the rebellion. Remember, Daniel was taken captive. He was faithful. His parents were faithful. They were students of Jeremiah, and yet they were taken captive. You see, when people talk about end time persecution and all this type of stuff, they forget that the faithful ones were grabbed too. When everything was going down, they went down also. So keep that in mind, because a lot of time people talk about end time persecution and forget to say, we living in the world, and although we're not of the world, but if a hurricane come through, you will lose power. You could lose your house just the same way. It's just part of the trip, man. We're part of what the trip to a certain degree. We might get shielded to a certain degree, but to a certain degree, we not have to. So here, this little girl, she believed. She was a believer. Most of Israel was not at this time a believer. They didn't want to hear anything from the prophet. But yet somehow she heard it and believed that, hey, look, this prophet can do this. Now, notice in the Bible that there is not much reference to Jews. Later, I'm going to read the words of Christ. I'm going to try to get to that. There's not much reference of any Jew receiving healing for leprosy. So this is significant because it's not like there's a whole bunch of stories of Jews getting healing. So it still baffles the mind. Why did she has this conclusion in her mind that he could get healing, right? Because it's not like there will be a lot of, no, it's possible because there's a prophet in Israel. But most of the people, as I was saying, didn't listen to the prophet. So that's what it is. And it's the same thing if you go to the church today. Most people don't believe in the help message. But yet it works. But most people don't believe. So this is where this becomes so important. So notice here she says, my Lord, which is Naaman, could get healing in there. Verse 4 says, and one went in and told his Lord, saying, thus and thus says the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Assyria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiment. So now this is someone that has attacked Israel. And he's going on to the king. I want to talk to you, bro. And he brought a letter to the king of Israel, saying, now, when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes, and said, am I God, to kill and to make alive, that this man doth send him unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. So we pause there. So notice here, this is again very important thing. It testified that whatever this girl believed, that was not shared by even the king of Israel. I want you to see that. It was not shared. This was not an idea that the king of Israel had in his thinking. He was not believing, oh yeah, this could work. So that bolstered the statement of the young girl, the maiden. It bolstered her statement because she believed, but the king didn't believe. The king thought this is going to be a mess. He's trying to pick a fight with me. Verse 8, and it was so when Elijah the man of God had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, because normally that's a major event, that he sent to the king, saying, wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? So let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. Thou shalt be clean. Thou shalt be washed. A little water of washing. But Naaman was wroth, and went away, and said, behold, I thought he will surely come out unto me, and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and strike his hand over the place, and recover the leper. Are not Abana, and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them, and be clean? So he turned and went away in rage. So he, as I was covering yesterday before I closed, he wanted to be healed in his own manner, not in the manner. This is what I'm talking about, where sometimes people want something, but they want it their way, but their way that they want it is not working, but they still want it the way they want it, and the point is, it's not working. God's gonna give it to you away because that's part of faith. Part of the faith is not so much this thing or that thing won't work per se. It's more, it's not your way. As the Bible said, my ways and your ways are not the same. And that's why when we come to the Lord, we bow in humility because we recognize that there's a higher power, a higher being that has different ways of doing things, because we try our way and it's not working. And so we probably should try the Lord's way. And when we try the Lord way, we're like, this is fascinating. This thing really works. I would never believe this would work. As I was saying to you, look, it's a similar thing with what it is. If I'm telling you to start messing about with all these dirty stuffs, it's a mess. And somebody come and say, no, go over there and do that clean stuff. Pure stuff. These are the purest chemicals. It's crystal clear. You would believe the pure stuff is going to work and not the ZPUB junk. You ever try to use turmeric, not to take it or to eat it in food, but to use it like on your external? It's a mess. It's just that's the only way to describe it. It's a mess because it stains everything. Turmeric will stain everything, but it's good healing properties in it, but it'll stain everything. So what are you gonna do? You go with the pure stuff, and the pure stuff have all kind of side effect because it's so pure. It doesn't have the cofactors in it. It's just the pure, isolated ingredient. So anyhow, so you look at this, he said, look, why can't I go over here in this clean, why this dirty thing you want me to go dip in? This don't even make sense. I'm trying to get rid of dirtiness, so you want me to go dip in dirtiness to get rid of the dirtiness, the sickness of leprosy. And the Bible says, yeah, it's actually, that's how it works. As I say, you think about the cross, the concept of the cross is not what you would think. A person needs peace in their life. Why would I take up a cross? That's trouble. It's problems. Why would I'm trying to live the good life. You tell me to deny myself. Because, when you think about the good life, you think about, all kind of dirty foods. You think about drugs like cocaine. That's normally symbolic of the good life. And then you come to someone and say, you want to live the good life? And they say, yeah. And you say, cut all that stuff out. Deny yourself. Go help the poor. Do something otherwise than what you normally do. Somebody's like, nah, it's not going to work. It's the opposite thinking of how human beings are. You say somebody, they're sick. You say you need a purge. And they say, what? A purge. You need to get the unclog. You need to pull the cork out of your anus because there's a corkscrew up in there. You're clogged up, you're plugged up. You need to unbound yourself and get the bung out. And then you need to flush yourself out and get all that garbage out, all that Twinkie and chocolate and stuff. I need to purge. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? We have medical advancement. What are you talking about? It's the opposite way. The Bible says go wash. Right? You need to get a wash. You need your mind washed. You need your mouth washed out with soap and get all that filthy talk out of your mouth. In your brain washed. You need your colons washed. Everything need to get washed. Everything need cleaning. You need to clean. That to a medical doctor be like, you're joking. Clean? How could clean be good? And we have an injection. So notice here, it says, verse 13, and his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father, if the prophet had bid thee to do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? And how much rather then when he said unto thee, wash and be clean? Notice this is the interesting thing. Great thing. So, like, look, the prophet has said to him, just think about it. It's just such a simple thing. Nothing exciting. There's no fanfare. You see, this is why the Bible says the kingdom of heaven doesn't come with observation, because there's no fanfare here. You just simply go over to the river and wash. You mean wash? That's it. I have leprosy and nobody can figure out how to heal it, and you're telling me to go dip 7 times. Like, this is some madness. And And the people is like, calm yourself down. Look, he just telling you to do something simple. But notice he wanted to put his hand on him, create this big thing. You think about the imagery in your mind of what a mainline church is, and it is an example of this. It's either the church with the people in the frock, and they have all this heap of fantangle and colors, and it's so wow. Or the other people, they're in sequence and they're jumping and getting in the spirit, and you think that's true church. But when you think about the Bible, a church in the Bible is very simple. When you think about it's everything's supposed to take off the ostentation. Even the part of the Bible that you would think is very opulent, which would be the worship in the temple. If you remember the story, the Bible was the Lord instructed David that when you assemble, you have to take off your kingly ephod. You have to come in a very simple garment. The priests would dress in simple clothing. They later on they start broaden their phylacteries and they start to add extra. The high priest was the one that was kind of blinged out, but beyond him, and it wasn't all the time, but beyond him, it was the priest would dress in very simple, natural fabrics and very simple robes and stuff like that. It was a different type of awe. So this is the thing about healing and the thing about belief. The belief is not necessarily the way you would think about it. It's not the grand thing. It's not the prophet coming and wow and bam and pew and then all of a sudden, whoa, look, and people are like, ah, yay, that was like a good show. It's not like that. There's sometimes in the Bible that happens, but most of the time it's not like that. And so that's what he had expected. Didn't get that. He didn't even get to see the prophet. You can imagine how mad he was. Like, he didn't even come out to me and talk to me. He just sent a messenger. Like, hey, yeah, go and do this. Notice verse 14. Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. Just the saying, just the words of the man of God. Just the words. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child. So he got like a makeover, and he was clean. So this is where the issue was he needed to be cleansed. And obviously here, the cleansing he needed was not just a cleansing of his mind. I mean, his body was a cleansing of his mind also. His soul need cleansing. And the Lord was showing him the way to cleanse him. Now, when you think about this, normally in our modern day, notice the prophet would have gone out and make sure to do a selfie. Elisha would have gone out and he would have make sure the camels are lined up. Naaman is on the chariot. He stand next to the chariot and he take a selfie and they post it to social media. And then when he comes back now, after he got his skin, then he would take another picture and then share it. And then he said, look. And then he says, go hit the donation icon and send some donation. That's how we will work in modern times. Not we, I shouldn't say that. I don't work like that. So if you notice there though, that the prophet didn't even come out, like if so, that means if for whatever case and understanding, at this point, if Naaman had left, Naaman probably would never be able to recognize even how Elisha looked. So Elisha wasn't in it for the fame. He wasn't in it for any reward. The later story, I'm not going to get into it because I'm going to get to another text before we close. Later text shows you that Naaman, Elijah was not in it for the reward, for the recognition. He just wanted to know that there's a prophet, because if you know there's a prophet in Israel, then you know there's a God in Israel, or you get that. If you know there's a prophet in Israel, then you know there's a God in Israel, because the prophet speaks for God. And there's no other gods in Syria that could done this for Naaman, but the God of Israel did it for Naaman. And that's important to note. And so your unbelief could limit your ability to heal. Your unbelief in the power of water, the power of exercise, the power of fresh air, sunlight, all of this type of stuff. Your unbelief in this could limit you. And so this is why you have to deal with that. Do you really believe? Do you believe that the Lord wants you to be healed? Do you believe the Lord wants you to be whole? This is where you start from. You always start from that premise. Do I believe that the Lord wants me to be healthy? And if you believe, then you do the things you need to do to be healthy. and the rest the Lord will do. And even the things that you don't know you need to do, Lord will bring some information by some means into your life to get you to the place you need to get to. But you have to believe that Lord wants to make you whole. That's where it starts from. You see, Nehemiah had to come to the point where simply just go dip sometimes. Don't worry about the river. That's not the point. You're told go dip, you go dip. It's an easy thing. What was it? What did it take for him to do? Okay. And he goes and he 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He comes up. He's like a baby again. He's a grown man. This is fascinating. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. And some of the things, a lot of times, the things that we ought to do for health is very simple. Simple diet, simple belief system. It's very simple. How we get ourselves into these things. It's all the crazy stuff that we eat and the crazy things that we do, the crazy things that we drink. That's how get us to that point. So to undo that, we have to go simple. We get from the crazy food and the crazy drinks and the crazy lifestyle to a simple lifestyle. And we become cleansed. Now notice in Luke chapter 4 verse 15, Luke chapter 4 verse 15, through more than I thought. I probably have to pick this up again tomorrow. Way too much here. So notice here, and he taught in the synagogue, being glorified of all. This is Jesus Christ talking about. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as is custom, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, and preach deliverance to the captive, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book, because the next verse would be, and their vengeance for God. This is our message at the end. This is coming. It's already here, I think. So notice here, and he closed the book, right? And he gave it again to the minister or the attendant, depends on how you're reading it, with translation. And he sat down, and the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, This day the scripture is fulfilled in your ears. And all bare him witness, and wondered at the gracious words which proceeded out of his mouth. And they said, Is not this Joseph's son? And he said unto them, Ye will surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. Whatsoever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in thy country. And he said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. For various reasons we won't get into right now. But I tell you of the truth, many widows were in Israel in the day of Elias, when the heavens were shut up 3 years and 6 months, when great famine was throughout all the land. But unto none of them was Elias sent, save unto Sarepta, a city of Sidon, unto a woman that was a widow. And many lepers were in Israel in the time of Elias the prophet, and none of them was clean, save Naaman the Syrian. So I paused here for a second because we're out of time almost. So notice Christ brings up the story of Naaman, and as I say, I'll pick this up again tomorrow as we continue. So Christ picks up the story of Naaman because notice here there were people in Israel, and they didn't get saved, right? No, sorry, they didn't get healing. There were people in Israel at the time of Elisha, and they didn't get the blessing that this widow woman got. So it wasn't a matter of even nationality, because God created all human beings equal in his sight and on the cross. But it was an issue here of a belief, because they didn't believe, they didn't get no healing. And so when he went to his town, when he went to Nazareth area, when he went back to where he was brought up, they didn't get no healing because they didn't believe. Because if you don't believe, then you just don't get the healing, because you will see the thing and say, this have no value to me because I don't believe. And you know the story. As he said that, they got mad and they went to try to kill him on Sabbath and tried to throw him off of a cliff, and he slipped away because they didn't want to hear the fact that the blessing and the curse came upon them, the all the wickedness came upon them. They were being pulled away and all that. This is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. But the blessing came to somebody else that wasn't even a Jew because they believe. Then it tells you the issue of belief. You either believe or you don't believe. But if you believe, you should act on that belief, because that's telling me if you believe or not, or tell God. So we close it there and we continue that thought tomorrow. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of this day, your word, and the blessings that you continue to give us. I pray, the Lord, you may be with us, dear Father, that we might truly believe in your word and receive the blessings that you would have us to believe, and that you may heal our minds and our hearts. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.